So now we're going to have our program. We have with us tonight Connie Baxter Marlow and her partner, Andrew Cameron Bailey. And they are calling in from New Mexico, and they're going to introduce themselves. But I met them several years ago. I went to, I don't remember what year it was, but it was an IONS conference, and they did a little presentation on the book they had written called The Trust Frequency, which I bought at the conference and read, and it quite resonated with me. So when I met Connie on a little IONS women's group, virtual women's group recently, I asked her to do the presentation of her book. So I'm going to turn it over now to Connie and Andrew and let them introduce themselves more fully and do their presentation. So take it away, Connie and Andrew.
Well, what a treat to be here with you folks. And we're calling in from Loveland, Colorado, Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado.
Which is a suburb of New Mexico.
Suburb of New Mexico. And I just want to tell you folks that in 1966, my parents moved from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, to Lake Oswego, Oregon, and it set me free. And it was really the beginning of my whole journey that has become this book. So I just want to tell you, as a recovering New Englander, I am happily a transplanted Westerner. And this guy is a transplanted Brit.
Oh, this is true. I'm a Brit, but I don't normally talk like that because I've been trying to fit in with the locals. I actually sailed across the Atlantic in 1969 and found myself on the shores of America. And I was actually headed for Northern California because I'd heard rumors of something about, well, California girls.
California
She
girls.
went to Berkeley.
I was there then.
Yeah, and possibly more important, what could be more important than a California girl, but honestly, the term cosmic consciousness, which is something, as far as I can now tell, the term came from somebody in Canada. I don't recall the circumstances, but I heard there was something called cosmic consciousness, and it had something to do with coming to San Francisco and wearing some flowers in your hair, and the rest is history. So that's me. That's how I got here.
From South Africa, because he got transplanted.
Right.
He left that part out.
I did. You can't tell the whole John story. I mean, you got to keep some secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure this out. Why, in my cosmic journey, did I land in Coventry, England, the most destroyed city in World War II, in 1943, November 1943. And then at the age of 3, I was transplanted to Durban, South Africa, where I got to grow up among the monkeys and the Zulus. And what a blessing that was. What an extraordinary launch I had into the world. But then over there as a young college professor, I was studying consciousness and Buddhism and all of those things that we eventually, most of us, get into at some point in our lives. I started at age 14, in fact, and heard these rumors or possibly read something in Life magazines, I think that's what it was, about cosmic consciousness. And it was about something that was happening in Northern California. And I'm a sailor, meaning I put up the sails and I let the wind blow me places, and I did that. And I arrived here on Thanksgiving of 1969 on these beautiful shores. And so I call myself a Latter-day Pilgrim. And Connie here is actually a native-born pilgrim because her ancestors arrived here exactly 400 years ago this year in 1620.
Yep.
So there.
Yep. Seeking freedom of conscience, freedom of that we could actually relate directly to the divine and build a society built on that. And I feel that's exactly where we're going. Okay? Freedom of alignment with our divinity and being in perfect balance in a higher frequency. We're going to talk about all this, but I believe the Mayflower Pilgrims brought a vision to this land, a dream that we could do that. And we've been in process ever since. And we have some work that we do around the syntheses between the European colonists and the American Indian that gave birth to the American mind and spirit and democracy, which we feel is our birthright. The whole vision of America, of the United States of America, I believe, is our birthright. Liberty, justice, equality, and abundance for all. And we'll be talking about how we get there with a new understanding of the nature of the universe. So that's what we're here to talk to you about. And let's see. Dottie said it would be good for us to say how we arrived at this construct on the nature of the universe that we're going to be presenting to you. And knowing that you're ions people, we're coming from a more advanced place than we would Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Mary and Susie from wherever, because we quite expect you've spent some time researching, living into, and dreaming about what's possible through a scientific understanding of the nature of the universe and a spiritual understanding of the nature of the universe. So, do you want to just tell them a quick little something about?
I just want to say what an honor it is to be on an ions group here.
Yeah.
Because I have known about the Institute of Noetic Sciences since the 1960s, since I was a young man in South Africa before I left there and sailed over here. And I sailed over here and, as I said, landed on Thanksgiving of 1969. I was headed for Santa Cruz, California, of all things, because I had met a man named Ralph Abraham, and I bet there are people in this group who have heard of Ralph Abraham of Santa Cruz, California, UC Santa Cruz, the mathematician, the father of chaos theory. And I met him in London on my last night in London, a little farewell party, and here was Ralph in the same restaurant, and he said, what? And I was headed for my graduate work in California. And he said, what school are you going to go to? And I said, well, I'm not going to go to school, I'm going to go to university. And I had already got 7 years of university behind me. And I learned at that moment that Americans still call it school. We call it varsity. So long story short, I sail across the Atlantic, I get myself across the country, I find Ralph Abraham in Santa Cruz, California, which changed everything, because you may well know that Ralph and Rupert Sheldrake and Terence McKenna and people like that were regulars at the Esalen Institute. So I found myself in early 1970 at Esalen Institute. And I looked around and I saw what was going on, and it was this entire explosion of consciousness. And I said, you know what? I think I'm done with academia, with standard regular academia. In fact, I was at UC Santa Cruz. They wanted me to study psychobiology and essentially brain science. And I really was not interested in looking into brains and wiring people up. I wanted to know how it worked from the inside. What's the operator's experience of being of human being? What does that being part mean? So I around about early 1970, I realized that my principal interest, and I had degrees in chemical engineering and mathematics and social anthropology and literature and stuff like that, because I have a very broad base academically, but I never specialized. I never got a PhD. I simply plunged into consciousness studies from an experiential standpoint, which means, yes, I did take some psychedelics. Yes, I did work with Ralph Metzner, but in a totally non-psychedelic context. He initiated me into Agni Yoga, which was my first spiritual practice, on and on and on up till the present moment. And somewhere along there, there was a collision between quantum science and indigenous cosmology. And our book, The Trust Frequency, we like to call it a synthesis of quantum science and indigenous cosmology. So I have a degree in physics, for example, from a very good university in South Africa, which is on the standard of Oxford and Cambridge. And therefore, I was supposed to know something about quantum science. And the fact is, I knew very little. I could get through exams, but honestly, I never did have a teacher, a professor who inspired me the way my chemistry professor inspired me, for example, or my English literature professor inspired me. So I really didn't grok it, to use that wonderful 60s word, grok, until I was in the midst of a degree in comparative religion, in social anthropology with a focus on comparative religion. I was studying the belief system of the Australian Aborigines, which is one of the more mysterious cosmologies on the planet. Very few Westerners have really understood what they were talking about. And here I am deep in this study of the Australians, and I realized suddenly, I remember the moment, I was hearing quantum physics. Their concept of the dream time was the same thing as the concept of quantum entanglement. We're all completely, totally, permanently, deeply interconnected. And it's an evolving, ever-changing, ever-growing, very beautiful thing. And that was an awakening moment for me back in my very early 20s, finding myself in California at Esalen Institute. And wow, it was amazing to discover, because it was new. This was all very brand new in those days. So that's a bit of my story. There's more, but I bet Connie's got something to add.
Well, that's a good story, don't you think? His life has been a magical mystery to her. I want to tell you that the chance meetings that took him through California and all the way to this moment has been amazing. And so I'll share a little of my story of how I came to this realization, this understanding of the trust frequency. And I just say that my paradigm, the current paradigm, never worked for me. So I never really cooperated to a great degree. I wasn't a real rebel. I went to prep school in New England. I went to New England Women's College until I got to Portland, Oregon, and Mount Hood Racing Camp. I was a skier, and I met a woman who was going to UC Berkeley summer school, and I went down there on my way back to Wheaton College and just said, I'm home. I've come home to freedom. And that was the beginning of my journey out of the paradigm that I was being put into in New England. And I call myself a recovering New Englander. And that takes some doing because it really gets deep into us, our early time. And so I asked the question, I said, what are the missing pieces of the paradigm that has humanity out of balance? So why I asked this question, but this was my question to ask. My soul must have come to ask that question because I saw that humanity has tremendous love in our hearts. I saw this through Florence Nightingale. I sort of had an epiphany when I learned about her and the love she had and how she served. And I just got it, that we have such love in our hearts. And why aren't we living that love? And so I just said, okay, what are the missing pieces? Because we had a paradigm that couldn't explain paranormal. And thanks to Dean Radin and ions, we're now scientifically bringing the paranormal into normal. And Jude Currivan and Nassim Haramein and Marshall Lefferts, all this cutting edge science now is bringing that into our knowing. And so my life became a journey of seeking these missing pieces. And I took up with an Austrian Olympic champion skier and for 10 years and went to Europe looking for the missing pieces. But all I found in Europe was the same mentality, the same thinking, because we came from Europe, our predominant culture. So what subsequently happened was I was in a bookstore in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I opened a book of Native American poetry. And in that book, I saw that 500 Indian nations knew something I didn't know. There was a new way of seeing and being. And subsequent to that, visionary elders started coming into my life. And I call them visionary elders. It was elders who experience multiple dimensions and experience and know that life beyond the scientific paradigm, the little box we're in. And Wallace Black Elk, one of the great Lakota elders, was a very close friend for a decade. And I would put him on stage and I would say, hey, everybody, come listen. Come listen. These people have something to give to us and something to add to our knowing about the nature of things. So that was my life in the 90s. And I was in Aspen, Colorado, saying things and bringing these Indians into the valley and saying things the Indians didn't even understand, because it's an evolutionary process. We've each got something to bring to the process. And Wallace once said to me, he said, Connie, you listen, you read between the lines and you teach me. Okay, because they know it's an evolving process. Not everyone knows anything from books, from research, from studying, from all this stuff. Wallace used to laugh and say, call a PhD a post-hole digger. Anyway, we've got a lot online of Wallace speaking, and grandmother Bertha Grove, a Ute elder who was up there in the Rockies. And so.
What's that got to do with quantum science?
Yeah, so the quantum science piece was very interesting, that 3 people asked me if I'd read The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. The 3rd person put it into my hands, and I actually read it. Because I've got tons of books that Spirit says, read this, read that, buy this. I have tons of books that I don't read. I am inspired by the spines, I say. But Andrew does read them, and he reads the whole book. I read a sentence or 2 that Spirit wants me to know and leave it at that. But meanwhile, I read The Holographic Universe, and I got it, that this quantum science was explaining the reality of these visionary native elders, that they were so desperate to share with us, but we didn't have the ears to hear because of this paradigm that we've been in. So Andrew and I came together. It was divinely orchestrated, and in 2003, and he can tell you a little about that.
All right, so we're as you can tell, we're creeping up on the present. We've reached 2003, and was it October?
Yeah.
October 2003, there was a workshop at Omega Institute in upstate New York, and I was living in the Hamptons at the time. I raised my kids out there, and I had met a group of Siberian shamans who happened to be traveling around the United States and doing these presentations. They were pretty amazing. And I did a weekend with them in West Hampton Beach. And when they left, I said, how and where do I find you again? And they said, well, we're at this place called Omega in 2 weeks. I said, I'll see you there. Because I was actually a founding member of Omega. I was party to the initial conversations back in 73, 74, that eventually became the Omega Institute. So I, needless to say, went to that gathering. There were about 110 attendees. It was called the Gathering of the Wisdom Keepers.
Yeah.
Right? And there were 7 or 8 people from various ethnic origins, Native American and others, including these Siberians. And in that group, sitting directly across from me in the circle of 110 people, was a young lady who is now sitting right here. So that's our story, how we met. And what's really interesting is we almost immediately discovered the common ground that we shared. Even these stories we just told, how the way I came to understand quantum science through Australian Aborigine cosmology, and how Connie came to understand Native American cosmology through Michael Talbot. That's pretty, I think that's pretty cool. So we got excited and we got to work and we started making films and writing books, and here we are. And showing up every 2 years at IONS and volunteering. You may have seen us there. I would normally be on one of the cameras. I'm a cameraman, video cameraman, dressed in black in the middle aisle there. And Connie would be in the front row holding up those signs saying, you've got 1 minute left, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Andrew wanted me to write a book. He felt that this cosmology that I had seen through these native elders and through my own vision and understanding, he felt that I should write a book. And I said, hey, I don't want to write a book. Reading's over. We're going to be intaking information much faster than reading, okay, because I'm about the future. And he said, okay, because he's a writer. So he wrote the book. And he brought so much to it from his experiences. He was a Sufi. He has a much broader experience base than this little all-American girl from New England, I want to tell you. So he brought so much to this construct and to this book. And so I think that's enough of our story. How's that, Dottie? Did we tell enough of our story? So
Dottie did say it was okay to tell stories a little bit. And,
she encouraged us.
Yeah, I know. And that's really nice because oftentimes you just have to sort of stick to the subject and get it done, and you've got 3 hours worth of work to cram into an hour and a half. And this feels wonderful. So that is a little bit of an introduction from Connie and Andrew.
So what we'd like to do, we'd like to walk you through this construct on the nature of the universe. And I just want to tell you something, that today, I spent today on Global Coherence Pulse, all right, in Islands of Coherence with Jude Caravan and Dr. Dispenza, Joe Dispenza, and Claudia Wells, and Teresa Collins, and Roland McCready. So they're doing this every Saturday if any of you are interested. It's really beautiful and very important up-leveling, up-notching of all this technology, all this understanding, all the research that IONS has done and HeartMath has done. So really highly recommend it. And it's very relevant to our talk today. And in fact, I know Jude spoke to you guys in June, and I actually was on that call and got a
Portland,
little,
yeah.
I made a little clip of something very important that she said that day.
We'll include in our PowerPoint, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into this PowerPoint and share our screen and walk you through some stuff. You up for that, folks? Hope you're up for that. Okay.
So,
yeah. All right. So what do we do
here
now?
we go. See, it
Should
says
we
share
share
screen. Got to share screen. And you want to
Then
have
we have
to
to-
have your screen ready for that.
Right. We have to share
So make
screen.
sure that you fill the screen with
screen.
the PowerPoint, and put up with us for a minute here, folks. Bear with us.
So
There
then we
you
have to go to,
from the start. There it is. Look at that.
so can you see it?
No, you haven't shared screen yet, I don't think.
I haven't shared.
Yeah, just share the screen.
Oh, I thought I did.
Yeah, hang on. You might have to get out of there now.
So now we have
You've
to
got
go
to be
back.
in Zoom. Just go to Zoom here,
I
right
thought-
there. Go to Zoom.
Okay, now what?
Now, this is the screen we're sharing, is it?
Yeah,
You sure?
I don't know. So share screen, it says share screen.
Right, but then you need to know, oh, it's this one. Here it is. See, we have multiple screens here.
No, this is it.
No, this is it. Oh, no,
No.
that's not it. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so now share. Oh, I
go,
see.
you
And then
gotta-
you have to push
You
share.
got to hit share.
Voila.
Here we go.
Okay, and then we
now
have to go to
There
from
we
start.
go. Here we
How's
are.
that?
Are we happening?
Are we happening? We're happening.
Somebody give us a thumbs up,
Yep.
please.
Happening.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So we are introducing something that you already know everything about. It's called The Conscious Loving Universe. It's the title of the first book we drafted way back in '04. Then we sort of put that one on a back burner. We created the Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for New Paradigm. And we're about to release The Conscious Loving Universe as an ebook coming up very shortly. And so today's presentation is, I like to call it Welcome
Welcome to the conscious loving universe. So what we are doing with this construct, it's a construct on the nature of the universe, 10 assumptions for a new paradigm. And we want to hit it head on that it's about moving beyond duality. Okay, this is a big leap for humanity. And until we can do this leap, we feel we are stuck in a lower frequency. So we just want to ask, are you ready to move beyond duality? Right and wrong, victim, perpetrator, good and evil. And we can sing this into being because for some reason the PowerPoint added little notes.
See that little note?
Wherever it wanted to, it added a little note. So
and we decided that that little note says,
Ta-da!
ta-da! So you
this
can sing
into-
along if you like.
Yeah, because what they're finding is the harmonics of the universe and music is very important. So here, this is God speaking right here. There's a little note that you're
just showed
sing.
up and it will not go away. So we said, okay.
Yeah, so harmonics and music are it. So Rumi spoke to us and told us that out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. So this is so beautiful that someone so respected and loved has given us this so succinctly that there's something there beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. So we're going to take you there. We're going to take you in through a construct on the nature of the universe that can, if one takes it as true, it flips everything. And here's a little slide, which is our Conscious Loving Universe guidebook slide.
The cover. You are the first humans known in the galaxy to actually see our new cover for the Conscious Loving Universe guidebook.
Yeah, and it's all love.
That's the fundamental message. 3 words. It's all love.
So it's a manifesto for higher consciousness.
Welcome to the Conscious Loving Universe.
The conscious, loving, abundant universe.
Humanity is on the cusp of an evolutionary quantum leap. We are moving from Homo sapiens to what I like to call humanity 2.0. Cutting-edge science is affirming what indigenous cosmology, Western mysticism, and the ancient Vedic wisdom of India have said for thousands of years. We exist as part of an interconnected universe of boundless energy and intelligence. You can call it the field or the force. Some people call it God. Science calls it the quantum vacuum. Whatever you choose to call it, we propose that the omnipresent universal field of energy and intelligence is in fact love. Love with a capital L. Needless to say, science is not quite ready to talk about love, but the truth of the matter is this.
There is only love. Love with a capital L. The entire universe is made up of love. However, love is not what most people think it is. In fact, love is the primordial power of the universe that creates and sustains all things. The love of the universe is a scientific fact. It's a quantum physics phenomenon. And guess what? This love is unconditional. It gives us everything we ask for. The big question is, what are our requests.
Our requests are our consciousness. We create reality with the power of our consciousness. It's all vibration. It's all frequency. It's physics. It's literally the mechanism that creates our reality individually and collectively. Not everybody knows that.
There are 7 aspects of human consciousness that determine our vibratory state, our frequency, and they all begin with the letter A. Here they are in one sentence. With expanded awareness and accurate assumptions, we choose our attitude, consciously direct our attention, align with our highest inner promptings, take committed action, and allow the loving universe to manifest beyond our wildest dreams.
Change your assumptions and the world changes with you. Our assumptions are the lens through which we see the world and are foundational to creating our reality. Our assumptions literally determine our frequency, and our frequency determines our reality.
Every frequency has its own laws. The laws are expanded in the higher frequencies. The earth is moving into a higher frequency, and we have work to do to keep up with her. The systems that were created in the lower frequencies of fear, scarcity, and separation are breaking down, and we're moving into a level of consciousness where ease, grace, generosity, and abundance are the natural order of things. There's a party going on, and we're all invited. We just gave directions to the party. I'll see you there.
Think of it this way. We are roving sensory organs of the divine.
We are the consciousness of unconditional love coming to understand itself.
Trust the loving universe.
Trust the conscious, loving, abundant universe. We are the conscious, loving universe.
Keep your vibrational field high. Keep your heart open. Stay in the trust frequency. It changes everything. Thank you. There you go.
So, that's
Oh.
our trust frequency manifesto. It says it all in quite a nutshell, what we're going to present to you tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. This is our book, The Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm.
And I hope you like the new mathematics there. Kokopelli equals MC squared.
And here's the new equation, which is QR plus IC equals CLU.
Ta-da!
Quantum reality plus indigenous cosmology equals the conscious loving universe. Ta-da!
So we'd like this to be fun as well as informative.
So here we ask you to take the following definitions and assumptions as absolutely true. Okay, that's so key for this construct on the nature of the universe.
We use a few words and terms in somewhat unusual ways, and we need you to know that as we begin here.
We ask you that you accept them as such for this life-changing exercise. After the exercise, it will be up to you to determine what resonates with your heart and spirit for long-term guidance. So here are our definitions, because we use words with different meanings than you find in the dictionary, and we're going to run through these quickly.
All right, I think everybody knows what an assumption is. It's a fundamental belief which we take to be true without question. You will find something close to that in the dictionary. However, a paradigm is a set of agreed upon assumptions which together create a consensus reality. Got that? A paradigm, people talk about a new paradigm. It is a set of agreed upon assumptions which together create a consensus reality. You will not find that in the dictionary. And circumstance, darling?
The seemingly uncontrollable outward events that influence our decisions. And here's a key definition of humanity. Okay, a collection of divine, autonomous, sovereign beings who have chosen to incarnate on earth to learn and grow on their soul's journey to wholeness, which is self-love and self-acceptance, each with an individual purpose and a unique gift.
And again, if you go to the dictionary and look up the word humanity, you will not find that.
So this is a kingpin word and definition that's key to the whole construct.
Frequency, again, not as found in the dictionary. Frequency, the way we use it, is the vibratory state that determines the characteristics of a particular reality. There is a wide range of frequencies, each with its own reality and its own distinct laws.
And free will, the inalienable right and ability to choose one's frequency and to co-create one's reality.
Consciousness. We encounter two distinct kinds of consciousness. One, the first is universal consciousness, which is simply the omnipresent life energy of the universe. And human consciousness, that which we experience every day, every breath, the active and passive phenomena of awareness, assumption, attitude, attention, alignment, action, and allowing. Note that each of those words begins with the letter A, so we call them the 7 A's, and they together determine our frequency.
And thereby our reality. And love.
Love is more than just holding hands. I think the Beatles said that. Love is the fundamental creative and unifying power of the universe. And I think that is the foundational statement that we make here, that love, we call it love with a capital L. And it's in fact a quantum power. It's somewhere in between the Higgs boson and the gluon in terms of the quantum science terms for it.
And the universe, all that is, both manifest and unmanifest, also called God, Creator, Jehovah, Atman, Allah, the Force, the unified field, the great mystery, the quantum vacuum, and many other names.
I love the fact that the quantum vacuum and God are one and the same thing.
So here we go with our first assumption. And that is, we live in a conscious, loving universe. There is only love.
And this is the beginning of our ebook. And we contrast these assumptions of ours. The first assumption, we live in a conscious, loving universe, there is only love, with the current assumption that's responsible for the world we find today. And I'm just we won't do all of these current assumptions, but this one's important, I think. The universe is a mechanical, lifeless machine. It is utterly unaware of our existence. It contains life on this planet at least, but the universe is not in and of itself alive. It is not conscious. It certainly doesn't love us. And then in each of these chapter headings, I pulled out a quote. So here's a quote from the book itself. Love is the primordial energy that creates and sustains the entire physical and non-physical universe. It is therefore related to the Higgs boson, aka the God particle, and the gluon described by contemporary quantum physics. The Higgs boson brings matter into existence, and the gluon is the subatomic power that holds everything together. Sounds a lot like love to us.
So this assumption sets up a paradox because we see so much and experience so much as not love. And our next assumption, oh, well, here we've got Jude.
You want
Okay, yeah, we've got Jude here.
Yeah, we got Jude.
So this is Jude Caravan, and
Hey,
hopefully you
Jude.
can hear her. It's a short clip from her talk in Portland, recorded talk in Portland. So let's see if you can hear it, because she really, this cutting edge science that
Will
she
that make it
represents.
play or go to the next
Yeah.
slide?
I hope that'll make it play. That her cutting edge understanding is saying exactly what we've just said in the first paradigm. Hang on, okay, maybe we hit this.
Yeah.
This is why I feel this is such an incredibly important time, because this convergence of science and spirituality actually includes and transcends both. So this is a cosmology of consciousness. This is literally a science of love. This is holding us in a unifying framework where everything in existence matters, where everything in existence has meaning and purpose, and we are the agents. We are the heads and hearts and hands of its evolutionary impulse.
Yeah, I hope that'll make it play. That her cutting edge understanding is saying exactly what we've just said in the first paradigm. Hang on, okay, maybe we hit this.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
And I love that, because that is so affirming what we wrote in our book, The Trust Frequency, back, was written in 2005.
Yeah, and she's saying that it was in 2018 that science actually proved the interconnectedness at the smallest level to the highest level, that it's all one. And that was in 2018. So, but it's what I saw through these indigenous people and through Jesus himself and the others who've been way showers of what it's like in another frequency. So here we have this little equation. God is love. God is everything. Then everything is love. It's just that simple if you believe these two parts of the equation. So then we have the second assumption that resolves this paradox. If we understand this second assumption and the next subsequent assumption, this is a whole construct on the nature of the universe, keeping in mind the definition of humanity that we chose to incarnate on Earth. Okay, so here we go with the second assumption.
And would everybody please mute themselves, because we're hearing somebody's background sounds there, if that's okay.
So the second assumption, it resolves that paradox because it helps us understand the nature of that love. It is unconditional. The universe loves us unconditionally. It gives us everything we ask for. Okay? So what we have to understand is that it loves us so much, it gives us what we ask for. So that overarching act of free will, when we came on the planet with a gift and a purpose on our soul's journey to wholeness, the universe said, okay, we'll do that. And that's our life journey. And that's the love that our life journey has been. And we go into that more deeply in our online course that we're going to tell you a little about. But here we have a little sentence from the book that Andrew will read.
And the way Connie just expressed that, there's another way to express it as well, which is probably closer to quantum science. And that is, we are so interconnected with the universe itself, with the entirety of the conscious loving universe, that we are co-creators with that universe. And everything we receive or everything we experience comes as a result of that co-creative experience
Yeah.
or power.
Sweet.
So we could look at it and say the universe gives us, or we simply co-created with the universe.
Yeah.
One way or the other, it's an extraordinary experience being a human being. So here's the quote from this chapter. The greatest difference between the love of the universe and the kind of love we humans are accustomed to is this. The love of the universe is unconditional. It is critical to understand this.
So the question becomes, what are our requests to this conscious loving universe? That's what we don't understand. And once we understand that, then we are in alignment. We are in, I don't want to use the word in control, because we don't want to be in control. We want to allow the loving universe to manifest. So from this perspective, so what are our requests? The third assumption, we create reality by the power of our consciousness. Okay, our consciousness. And then our next assumption is, okay, what are the aspects of that, of our consciousness? And here is the sentence that
Here's this
from the
brief
book.
quote from this chapter of the book. The boundless diversity of existence is the ever-evolving consciousness of unconditional love, coming to understand and experience itself and its unlimited potential for creative expression. This consciousness explores its expressive capability by creating powerful, visionary creatures such as ourselves, each with a gift and a purpose on our soul's journey to wholeness.
Yeah, so here we go. Here is what our fourth assumption, which we've spoken of in our video that you couldn't understand. So here are the 7 A's, 7 aspects of our consciousness that determine our frequency. And remember, each frequency has a different set of laws. So we, depending on what frequency we're in, it determines what laws apply to us. So it's a pretty interesting concept that we're presenting here, and we'll show you how we came to this. But meanwhile, the 7 A's of consciousness that determine our reality.
Awareness, assumption, attitude, attention, alignment, action, and allowing collectively determine our frequency. Once we really know that and make that a fundamental core belief or assumption, it literally changes everything. And here's a little quote from that chapter. Our awareness, assumptions, and attitudes, the choices as to where we place our attention, the degree of alignment with our inner guidance, and the committed actions we take, along with the degree of our trust in the loving universe, determine the frequency we inhabit, which in turn determines every aspect of the reality we experience.
Yeah. So we're going to keep moving because we've got a sentence, one sentence with all 7 A's in it that really help us to understand these 7 aspects and our power with them. And here's the sentence.
It's like the operating instructions for the human being.
Yeah, and really pay attention to the A word, but also the accompanying word, because that's a key to how we use and embody these aspects of our consciousness. So here it is. With expanded awareness and accurate assumptions, we choose our attitude, consciously direct our attention, align with our highest inner promptings, take committed action, and allow the loving universe to manifest beyond our wildest dreams. So that's a little toolkit that one can take with one daily, whenever, and just check on one's awareness, assumptions, attitude, where we're putting our attention, what we're aligning with, and most of all, what action, because action is the key that will take us into the frequency. We have to walk this thing. We have to know it to the extent that we walk it, which is very challenging in a world that says you're crazy. If you don't show up this way, you're crazy. Oh, and what if, and if only, and all those things that we say and that sabotage us.
And once again, if you go to the dictionary and look up the word consciousness, you will see that it says consciousness is awareness. I agree. The first A is awareness, but there are many, many other aspects and attributes of consciousness that simply don't seem to be understood either by science or psychiatry or psychology.
Right, but we call them our requests to the conscious loving universe, but it's pure physics. It's vibratory level.
It's attunement. It's literally what we attune ourselves to that results in our lives as they unfold.
Yeah, so attunement, there's another A.
Yeah.
Acceptance is another A. There's
Right.
lots of A's, but here we're giving these 7 A's. So now, the whole idea of committed action, and this is where I came to understand that the different frequencies have different laws. Okay, this is a quote that's attributed to Goethe, but he didn't write it. It's a man named W.H. Murray, a Scottish mountaineer.
Getting ready for an assault on Everest, I think.
Uh-huh.
But the last part, whatever you can do, a dream you can do, I think that is from Goethe. So there's a seed of Goethe. I think he was quoting Goethe, and the whole, what's W.H. Murray?
Yeah.
His whole statement has now become attributed to Goethe.
So here it is.
Inspired by
And
Goethe.
many of you have probably seen this, but it's very important concept he's sharing here. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, that ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. Okay, this is a key piece of our understanding, because from what I understand, and from this perspective, providence doesn't move. We move ourselves into another frequency. So where there is a whole nother ball game, there's a party going on, we're all invited, and it's in another frequency. It's right here, right now. We just have lost the directions to the party. So we are giving you some of the directions to the party. And Henry David Thoreau, in his conclusion to Walden, and we do a lot of work with the mystical Thoreau. We present at the Thoreau Society regularly, bringing the mystical Thoreau to the table. But in the conclusion to Walden, he said this: I learned this, at least, by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. He will put some things behind, will pass an invisible boundary. New, universal, and more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within him. Or the old laws will be expanded and interpreted in his favor in a more liberal sense, and he will live with the license of a higher order of beings. So, folks, these two quotes are kingpins in this, in my understanding, why I came to understand there is another frequency. The laws are expanded, the laws are different, it's a different ball game, and we have the ability, the free will ability, to choose our frequency, our reality. And science is proving this with the observer effect, that we create what we put our attention on. So, what we want to do now,
Jump up into the air and celebrate.
is share with you an application of these 4 assumptions and the trust frequency in general to our lives, to our relationships. And so here we have our online course, which is the Dance of Souls. And we actually have another video.
Hello, we would like to introduce you to our course, The Dance of Souls. I'm Andrew Cameron Bailey.
And I'm Connie Baxter Marlow. Do you have relationship patterns you would like to change? Would you like to take your understanding of the nature of relationships to another level and understand how they all serve us? I will lead you through a deep journey of self-discovery, healing, and transformation through a new understanding of the nature of love.
And I will enhance that journey with a series of meditations that will expand your awareness to places you may never have been before.
So join us. We'd love to have you with us on this amazing journey to self-love, self-acceptance, and understanding that we are so loved by a conscious universe.
And you will find that your life has been transformed on a personal level and on an interpersonal level. Your relationships will evolve, you will have evolved, and you might just find yourself feeling like, whoa, I'm a brand new person. How about that?
And in that process, you come to bring your true gift to the party of life, and that's you.
I like the sound of that. You?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The course is a deep experiential exploration into conscious relationships through an evolving understanding of the loving nature of the universe. Once we understand that we chose to come for our journey, and the Dance of Souls mirrors our light and our shadow, because we came with a job to do, and that is to align with our divinity, love all of ourselves, and bring our gift to the party. All of creation is awaiting the gift we promised to bring to the party, which is all of us. So we incarnate into certain circumstances, and our soul asks for certain behaviors from people in our lives to show us those parts of ourselves that we don't love. And so it shows us these behaviors, what we see when we have repeated challenging behaviors in our life, we come to see and understand that that repetition is actually the signal that we have something inside of us, some self-doubt, self-hatred, some our denial of our divinity, our aspects of us that we think people won't like, that won't bring us success. We can't be that person because we won't be successful, we won't be loved. And what we come to understand through this dance, understanding this dance of souls, is that the universe wants all of us. And it's going to keep giving us those experiences that we agreed to experience when we incarnated. The universe is going to give us whatever it is so that we will bring our true gift to the party.
This is a reminder, and this little symbol, remember what it says? It says, ta-da,
Ta-da!
ta-da, ta-da,
Dance it, dance it.
humanity. We are a collection of divine, autonomous, sovereign beings who have chosen to incarnate on Earth to learn and grow on our soul's journey to wholeness, self-love, self-acceptance, each with an individual purpose and a unique gift.
We have this course, and we were doing a workshop, and a friend posted on Facebook on the day we were doing the workshop. She posted this post, and we want to read it to you because it expresses that place that we feel the dance of souls when we understand our soul's dance and its purpose, that we will come into self-love and alignment with our divinity. So here it is. She says, feeling I have not been in right relations with many over these last few years. Family, community, sisters and brothers. Lack of communication. Dropping off commitments. Saying yes when it's a no. Passive-aggressive tendencies. Projections, and much more. I am receiving this awareness in little bits and pieces that this way of being is mirroring my relationship with myself. I have been out of integrity with my needs, wants, and desires. I give up on myself when things get tough. I lose myself in what others think, highly influenced by environment and others' needs, wants, and desires. And I distract myself with what others are doing. This is one of my sacred wounds, not knowing or remembering what my divine mission is or how to express it in the world, and really allowing the feeling of fear to inhibit expressing my true essence. I am shifting and repatterning this now. My deepest apologies if you have experienced this with me. I am committed to taking responsibility for my actions and inactions through reflection, integration, compassion, fierce expression, and deep self-love. Thank you for your love and care while I navigate this terrain of self-awareness and self-love and being in coherence with my divine mission and sacred purpose. Together we rise, loving you and me and humanity. Adara Love, January 29, 2020. So I hope that that was a gift to you in understanding that we have work to do. Each of us came on the planet with work to do and to come into alignment with our divinity. So
we're going to pick it up and wrap it up at this point. We're simply going to go through, you remember it was called 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm, and we based the previous work on the first 4, which are critical. But here are the other 6.
Yeah, so we're
The
just going to
fifth
run
assumption.
through this quickly.
And once again,
This-
I'll read the quotes, and Connie will do the rest.
Yeah, so here's the 5th assumption. Free will is an absolute law of the universe. And remember that one has to take all this as absolutely true for this exercise. We're not saying it is absolutely true, but we're saying if you want to shift your life, it's important to take this as absolute. So you read them.
Each and every aspect of our lives is the direct result of the countless free will personal choices we have made. Even the most conformist of us has made a conscious choice to conform. At every step, we were presented with a choice. We made a decision, for better or worse, based on our fundamental assumptions about the nature of existence and what we thought would be best for us and for those we cared about.
So we'll keep moving. The 6th assumption, circumstance guides us on our journey to wholeness. What we say is circumstance loves us more than we do because it takes us places we would never go by our free will choice. But remember, our overarching act of free will, that we gave permission to the loving universe, to circumstance, to take us on this journey.
Has
So-
anyone ever felt like a victim of circumstance?
Mhm.
Well, what we do, we flip that one on its head and we become beneficiaries of
Beneficiaries,
circumstance, because
Okay.
every time something happens that we hadn't planned, and we get a couple of years to look back on it, we say, thank God that happened because it changed everything. And here's a quote.
Everything
from-
happens for us, not to
Yeah.
us.
The fact is, the loving universe is never wrong. There are no mistakes. Once we understand the central role of circumstance in our lives and pay attention to its unerring guidance, we will never again think of ourselves as victims of circumstance.
So here's the 7th assumption. There is only now, this precious present moment. The now is the gateway to the trust frequency. When we get in the now and we're losing our memory, so we can't remember what we did yesterday and we can't remember what we're supposed to do tomorrow, what does that do? It puts us in the now. It's a part of the evolutionary upward spiral into our intuitive mind from our memory mind. So here.
And what this is, in fact, is a little here and now meditation. So if everybody would just stop everything, slow down. We've been moving rather fast, and we're going to slow down, close our eyes. So here's the quote. Slow down, stop everything, close your eyes, breathe deeply, gently, and contemplate nothing but the now. Feel the air, listen to the wind. Don't allow any thought of past or future or anything else to intervene. What do you see? What do you feel? What is going on right here and right now?
Yes, nice. Okay, 8th assumption. All of creation is one. Separation is a man-made illusion.
And here's the quote. The Eastern mystics and the indigenous people based their worldview on unitive principles. It wasn't until Newton, Descartes, and Darwin that we Westerners fully separated, although we had many centuries previously bought into the idea of a separate God. Then, during the Age of Reason, we took the radical dualist fork, leading to the current paradigm, disconnected from the rest of creation.
So, Jude Caravan would agree with this one, and the whole shooting match. It's so wonderful that Jude is bringing the science behind all this. And the 9th assumption. Humanity is on an evolutionary upward spiral to peace on earth and heaven on earth. Here we go, Andrew.
Right, and just for fun, I'll put in the current assumption here because it's the last of them. A lot of people believe that humanity is going nowhere. In fact, we're going to hell in a handbasket. There's an awful lot of people who believe that. I remember in Sedona once, Michael Beckwith was giving a talk, and he used the term hell in a handbasket. And he asked the question, what is a handbasket?
Yeah.
And he seemed to be confused because if we don't know what a handbasket is, how are we going to go to hell in it?
Yeah, true.
So here's the quote. We have a choice to make. Do we trust what we have learned so far in this book? And if so, are we ready to participate in our own evolution? In the process, the futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard calls conscious evolution. The fact of the matter is this: Homo sapiens is at the dawn of a great evolutionary leap, a great awakening, leading inexorably to a higher, more conscious reality.
And here's the 10th assumption. The trust frequency is real, available to anyone, anywhere, anytime.
And the quote, once we understand the astonishing beauty of the conscious loving universe and our important place in it, we can attune ourselves to any frequency we choose. Once we fully understand and trust the fact that this higher reality is not only possible, but is the natural order of things, we transition into an enduring state of gratitude, love, and trust, ease and grace, which are our primary vehicles to heaven on earth.
Yay. So we just ended with, here's what the old paradigm takes us down into a lower frequency: separation, not love, a mechanistic universe, time-based. We're going to destruction with its determinism. We're victims of circumstance that leads to conflict, helplessness, victim, powerless, fear, and anxiety. And what the new paradigm does, it's when we understand that it's a conscious universe, there's only love, there's only free will, we're on an upward spiral, it's beyond time, and we are one. It leads to a new paradigm, a new way of being with meaning. Everything's okay. We're powerful. We trust. We know it's infinite balance, and it's cooperation. And so that's the reality in the higher frequency. And we close with trust the loving universe. So there.
That's our presentation,
That's it,
friends. Thank you
folks.
for hanging in with us. And I trust that that was enjoyable.
And we now it's Q&A. So now
You
we
can
stop
sharing the screen.
share.
Yep, there you go. Beautiful.
Hello, hello.
Anyone there?
Anyone there? So it's Q&A, right?
That was really awesome. I loved the talk, and it's beautiful to share with you. And I'm grateful that I got to tune in and hear your talk. Thanks.
Oh man, thank you so
So that's
much.
Donald.
Yeah.
Hi, Donald.
Hi.
Nice to see you. What a great smile you have.
Well, and I shared it with my crystal. I have a luminary quartz crystal that is my friend tonight. I've been practicing with that. Oh yeah. So sending cosmic energy your way.
Thank you. Thank you. Where do you live?
Columbia City, Oregon, up on the Columbia River. I have a nice, beautiful view overlooking the Columbia River.
Oh, sweet.
Very, very peaceful.
Wonderful.
Well, we didn't get earlier on, people shared what their day had been. A part of our day here was very interesting because the sun turned a deep dark red because we have this massive cloud of smoke overhead. It was much like an eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
Extraordinary. There's a big fire somewhere not far away, and for days this plume has been approaching us. That was a part of it. It was.
Yeah, well, that is the West, isn't it? This is fire season, so.
Yeah, it is.
Colorado's burning.
Yeah, well, Oregon too. This is typically our fire season, but
Right.
we've been blessed so far. It's not been too bad. So.
Anybody else have any questions or comments,
Suggestions?
suggestions? How was it for you?
This is Mark. Hi.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing from your hearts and from kind of putting some shape into something that's emerging in all different places. There's so many places from inner experiences and in the outer world where this information is starting to assimilate and kind of percolate into our consciousness. I was kind of on the track with these same thoughts in my mind today, vacillating between where all love, that's all there is, and that individuated expressions of it sometimes come into a place of forgetting, like you're saying, like you're presenting, that that's not something that's coming towards us. That's who we are to start with. And all the different ways that we search for something we already are. And right. And it's so tricky that there's so many forms of that. There's this oscillation between all there is the physical reality, is Newtonian physics. It's just all random, right? We come so far down into that lower thing that we bounce off the bottom of that with this thing of, is that all there is? There's got to be more. And then, but the same is true on the other end of the scale. If we try to rise up into this all is one, it's all love, without a vibratory experience or without some way of receiving and giving, we could arrive at the other thing where we're just in the oneness of the void, of the vacuum, of the everything, going, is that all there is? There's got to be more. And turn around, right? And it's like a dolphin that lives and breathes oxygen but goes underwater for the pleasure of it. But the dolphin remembers where to go back and breathe, right? Where we're under the water, forgetting that there's something that's our essence and our life force that is just living through us.
Yeah, sweet. My understanding, we are doing this transmuting of this fear and separation and scarcity for all of creation. It's like we were given a job to do, to get into these meat suits, this 3-dimension and this lower frequency, because the earth has been in a lower frequency. So all our systems are built and behaviors are built in response to that lower fear frequency. And we've done a heck of a good job of walking through it, of, you know, all these different colors of man, all these different religions. You know, I mean, if you're the divine, and you're thinking, okay, how am I going to get this done in a good short amount of time? I mean, it seems like a long amount of time, but just in the big picture. So, okay, I'm going to give them all different languages, and they're all going to be in different colors, and they're all going to and they're going to be afraid of each other, and they're going to walk through this, get this whole job done.
Yeah, you guys work it out.
So that's my perspective, and it's also perspective from an indigenous perspective, because the indigenous perspective is of eagle's perspective, and that's my perspective as well, is only the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth, and this whole process of the opening of the human heart. I mean, isn't it beautiful now to watch it actually in action? I don't know if any of you are doing this global coherence pulse stuff, but I really recommend it, because it's this heart opening in action, through science, through the heart math, through understanding the power of the heart, the neutrons in the heart. Anyway, it's a glorious time.
Maybe neurons?
Neurons. I don't know what a neutron or a neuron is anyway. So anybody else?
I would like to comment actually on that last one just a little bit. You mentioned that the dolphins remember to breathe, and that's key, is remembering to breathe, because by breathing we remember. So this trust frequency project, if we care to undertake it, is a practice, and it's a breathing practice. And if we just with every breath remember just a little bit more, and every time we fall down and get disturbed or anxious or depressed or whatever it might be. I'm one of those people who I go up and down. But having written the book, that's a very good idea. Once you write the book, you kind of have to walk the talk. And what a blessing that has been in my life, because I'm actually seeing that this material works.
Mm.
And it's about remembering, because once we remember who we truly are at that original highest level, then all of this stuff that we have to deal with becomes almost trivial. If we truly trust that the worst thing that happens is actually comes from love, is actually divine circumstance guiding us, boy, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It helps our attitude. We get out of the victim story.
Mm.
And Joe Dispenza today, I don't know if you know anything about his work, but he's saying your attitude, your story, you just got to get out of it, okay, for your health. We can transmute, blind can see, and all the stuff that the indigenous peoples do. He's guiding people through that process, and he says it's about your attitude. I mean, it really, it's about how you think. It's about your thoughts. So he's working at transmuting people's thoughts out of the past into the future, which I don't agree with totally, because our thing is about being in the now and total trust in the now and letting the universe bring to us more than we can fathom. So I don't agree with Dr. Joe Dispenza 100%, but it's all good. It's all a different approach for different people.
Different strokes.
But I would never tell the universe what I want, because I want what it wants from me. Yes?
You know, Connie, when you put that Rumi post up and you're reading through that, Rumi's describing a field, and it's the same no being, no awareness, nothingness that Joe Dispenza talks about when you get into that quantum zone where you're not at mission, you're at transmission, you're at that higher level of where you reconstruct the universe in the way that you want it to be.
Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, I just heard him for an hour today. He really explained what his process is to some degree. But yeah, getting into that state, one way or the other, and so into the now, into that trusting state. And he's showing scientifically how you can heal and all the magic that the Aborigines and the native people can do, shape shifting, healing broken bones, magically. I mean, there's so much magic awaiting us. And Mark, you're like, well, is it going to be boring up there? We get there, is that going to be someplace we're going to say, oh, well, let's go back and have a little strife and stress and war and hate and all that stuff?
No, that wasn't my point. I think that once we have the continuum of all the unity and all of the different possibilities that can arise from the infinite potential, and we realize that we are the ones that are directing the show from an unconscious place, and we bring consciousness and awareness to that, then all these things you're talking about will be normal.
Right.
Yeah, I'm excited as you are for all of the not that that's magic, that's just like the way it should be before we pretended like we couldn't do that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
And we didn't come here to work to survive. We made that up. Okay, you gotta get over that one. We can give our gifts and receive more than we can fathom, because when we get out of counting, we get out of this whole scarcity thing and competitive thing, we're in a higher frequency where there's more abundance than we can fathom, like old Jesus with his loaves and fishes. And I know native people who can have a never-ending pot of soup. Okay, it keeps on serving. The pot of soup never ends. I promise you, we're in for the magic when we can get there, and we're getting there.
And I just want to mention something. I think you science ions guys know that roughly 96% of the universe is missing in action. We know it's there, but we can't find it. We've made up words, we call it dark energy and dark matter and stuff. We've got a lot of fun to have and a lot of work to do. We're never, ever going to be bored, no matter how high and far we get in our evolution. So just imagine what it's going to be discovering the ridiculous abundance of the additional 96%. Come on.
Old John Lennon, he knew in the song Imagine, imagine no possessions. In the native way, you don't own anything. If you've got a necklace that somebody says, oh my, nice necklace, you know that they're telling you it's their turn. Okay, so there's no possessions. And then that responsibility goes on that person, because you know that they're coming from a high place and they don't want it just because it's all diamonds. You know that they know that it's theirs. It's their turn. So I learned all this from these native people that I was with for so long. It's a whole nother reality. And the whole thing about private property and owning land and all that our whole economy is based on, it's over. We're going to go into another dimension where the whole ball game changes. So any thoughts, any questions?
So I love what you say, and I always want a practical application. So maybe you could share an example. And also I just think about all the people who, are currently suffering with COVID and economic and things like that. So how do you bridge it in your own life? Do you have down moods, and then what do you do? And then what would you say for people who are really concerned about what's happening?
I would just say right now that to live in the trust frequency is more critical than ever. Because if you can really take this on, this reality that we've just exposed here, that we've just presented here, God, what a difference it makes, because it doesn't actually matter ultimately what the outer circumstances are. I was just talking the other day to a woman friend of ours who is terrified of COVID. And it made me realize that I hadn't even had that thought. I have absolutely no fear. Why? Because I trust that, let's say, I were to get it and get sick and die. Okay, so I'm back where I started. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of this world, but it's the beginning of the next one. So what's up with that? If we truly live in this space where we understand ourselves to be divine, autonomous, sovereign beings who came here by personal choice, and whatever happened and whatever triggered our departure and why we left, it's incredibly helpful in terms of, it's really an attitude shift, a profound attitude shift when you really accept all circumstances, including those that are not what you would have chosen. What a difference it makes to one's here and now existence.
And if you take this as absolutely true, we don't know another soul's journey. Okay, so, and one Mayan elder said, well, people are choosing the exit strategy with this COVID. So we don't know another soul's journey. And so what we see in this COVID thing, we can see the high side of it, right? I mean, I assume everyone sees the high side of it, that we've been told, go to your room and sit there and think about it, okay? About life, about what we've been doing. And the systems are breaking down. And to me, it's divine. It's the gentlest way. It's not a war. It's us coming to understand we're all one. And one thing, as far as the grief that people are suffering, grief is a transformative power, an incredible transformative power. And so if we take this and see, for me, I always say, okay, how does this serve the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth? For me, it's absolute. There's nothing else. So when you ask that question, it transforms everything into, yeah, okay, I can see it from a different perspective. And as far as our lives are concerned, we live totally in the trust frequency. We have no money, no savings, no income. Okay? I mean, literally. And we're 70s, and we're in our 70s. And we are trusting the loving universe, the loving, abundant universe. We are cared for. We're here at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado, on the media team. We are fed, we are housed. We live on a 350-acre ranch with a community. I mean, and what's next for us? We don't know. We trust the loving universe. We put one foot in front of the other. We work all day, day in and day out with our message, this trust frequency stuff. Andrew has some inventions for climate change. We live lives of service, but lives of service that serve us. See, in this frequency, it's so important for us to serve ourselves, because when we serve ourselves in the higher frequency, we automatically serve others. And when we serve others, we automatically serve ourselves. So we just come into knowing that, hey, if I want to go out and be of service, that's coming from me. That's the divine speaking through me. If I don't, if my service is personal transformation, if my service is working on getting this word out for the trust frequency, whatever it is, it's all good. It's all love. But we have to love ourselves, accept ourselves, and know that whatever it is we're bringing to the party, it's needed, it's wanted, who we are from our hearts.
Hi, can I ask a question, please? This is Milt Markowitz.
Yeah, Milt, hey.
Yeah, I'm traveled very much the same path that you have, not as deeply, as intensely, but I work a lot with Native Americans and have been to Australia with the indigenous people there, the Aboriginals.
Oh, sweet.
And actually co-authored a book called Language of Life, Answers to Modern Questions in a modern crisis in an ancient way of speaking.
Oh, wow.
It looks at the ancient Hebrew, and that template is very much the same as a lot of native languages. And there is a field in there that is called attraction, it's love. So what you're talking about resonates really deeply with me. But the other story that I work in with the native people is that we are dealing with a very urgent problem and a very catastrophic problem, and it's called climate change. And it needs to be addressed, and it's being addressed in very much the wrong way, in that it's a technological answers keep coming to the fore. And my belief is that the problem that underlies it all is an ethical issue. And that ethical issue has built up all through empire the last several thousand years. And we are rewriting that book right now, Ruth Miller and I, and it probably will be called Awakening and Already Knowing. And that term comes from a Navajo gentleman who was looking at the book, we were talking about it, and he said, Milt, when we speak our language, it's like awakening and already knowing. And I think that's the work that's to be done. I don't think you disagree with it. I think that's what your work is too. But what I'm wrestling with is, over these several thousand years of empire and so forth, we actually have taken a very downward tribally, a devolving way of being. And I'm Jewish. I can look at the Jewish, we lost our language, we lost our way of being, we went to hierarchy, we just did all of these things. We became part of this culture. And now if we want to awaken the already knowing, it's like covered up with all this muck. And so I'm wondering to you if you have any advice on how to really reconnect at this deeply spiritual, ethical level to address the problem that is right there in front of us. And we may have passed tipping points and not have, we may be in big trouble, our species and a lot of other species. But I think that this is the work that needs to be done. And if you have any suggestions about how to break through that, how to, like when I do a lot of interfaith work too. And when I deal on an interfaith basis, I find that there is very little real looking at what have we wrought? How do we own this? How do we recognize the lack of our own spirituality and the desire to question our own beliefs and break through into this realm that you're talking about?
I'll give that a shot, Milt, if you like. So firstly, both individually and collectively and ethnically, let's say you're Jewish, you're from an ancient Middle Eastern tribe, I'm from an ancient Celtic tribe. We are in these bodies now, and we can look at the entire history. And if we view that history from the perspective of the trust frequency of the work we've just been describing, if we know that everything that has happened to us has happened, when we know that everything that has happened to us throughout history, whether it's the Holocaust, whatever it might be, happened for us in some way, and I don't want to demean any terrible things that have happened to anybody, but if we can take it from that highest place, if we can just look at the Native American experience, if the Native Americans can collectively realize that their experience has happened for them as opposed to them, they are no longer victims. They become masters of their own destiny. That applies to each and every one of us if we apply it. We have to apply these principles as absolutes with no doubt, with total trust. It's not easy, it's a practice. We may fall down hundreds of times from that practice. One of our native friends the other day, we were just on a Zoom call with him, and he said, too much thunder, not enough rain. Interesting point. Too much thunder. In other words, plenty of talk, plenty of conferences and all of the things we do, but where are the actions that are going to make the difference? Because I completely agree with you, Milt. I'm a grandfather. I recognize that my grandchildren are facing a very uncertain future, as are the grandchildren of all of us. Mm-hmm. Purely on the subject of climate. There are plenty of other issues, but climate. So I'm an old chemical engineer by training. I used to be a chemistry professor in a college in South Africa as a young guy. And that came back around, and I've been designing systems that incorporate technology. Most of them are ancient technologies, such as agriculture in its various forms, but also perhaps fairly modern things such as how do we actually extract carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and do something with it that's useful to humanity, and preferably make it profitable. So there's a business there that will actually, therefore it will actually happen. So I'm 5 years into a design project here that I'm a designer builder, but I've yet to build. I've designed this, I've yet to build anything, but I have a vision that will work. We're actually talking to Native Americans down in New Mexico, where on the Pueblo lands, they're very interested in this project. So it's very challenging, but I believe that we humans have the intelligence, the technology, the wherewithal. We have everything we need to do it. We appear to lack the will or the vision or something. There's something missing right now. But if you truly trust, then you also trust, the word trust, T-R-U-S-T, truly rely upon Spirit's timing. If you're in the trust frequency, you know that when it's right, it will happen. If it's right, it will happen. We may not know whether or not any particular strategy is the one, but we'll know it when it happens. Connie, yeah.
Yeah, and so Milt, one thing from the native people, they said, listen. So I listened. And they say, in their knowing, everything has a purpose. That's what the trust frequency. Okay, I got it. Everything has a purpose, period. You see, Wallace Black Elk said, you know, there's no ands and ifs and buts and whatever. You know, everything has a purpose. And Jude Curvan, you heard in that clip from Jude, everything has a purpose. It's leading somewhere. And the Native people know that. The visionary elders know that their whole, everything they have experienced is for them, for their process. Okay, so, you know, because one thing, the Native people were at war incredibly long before the white people came here. So we've all been in this together. It's so important to understand that the whole human race has been subject to this lower frequency. And so the process of moving into the higher frequency is we have to choose it. We have to go through the process to get to the place where we open our hearts, we come into understanding we are all one, and we walk forward together into the light, each of us bringing our gifts to the party. And that's Native prophecy. That's the essence of the Native way, that the 4 colors of man are going to come together, and we're going to create the hoop of life, the hoop of many hoops, which is Nicholas Black Elk.
And the time is now. We are here, folks. We've been talking and prophesying and all that stuff, and this actually is I believe we are here. We're at the critical turning point. And the next 20 or 30 or 40 years are going to.
But seriously, what Claudia Wells, you know, ions, this is an ions community. Claudia Wells and Teresa Collins, they're doing this heart coherence stuff with heart math. I mean, this is key, you know, that whole thing of small islands of coherence can shift the whole shooting match. Okay, so this coming together and coming into the heart and opening the heart and moving into that energy, that frequency, we leave the past, the old energies over, and we walk into the higher energy, the higher frequency, the new ball game. And the Zoom is facilitating it. I mean, we can go on, and here we are, you know, sitting here face to face. You know, we'd never get this close to each other in a meeting. We'd be sitting around or sitting in rows in the seats, and look, here we are all face to face and heart to heart. Look at Georgina with her beautiful smile, and Victoria, and Mill, and wow, you guys, I can't see Billy very well, but look at Amy, and look at Dottie. Yeah. Here we are, and look, there's Donald.
Beautiful guys.
Donald. So
I just want to say that I don't know about you folks, but we are finding ourselves on Zoom with literally hundreds and hundreds of people every week. In fact, we're missing one of our regular Saturday night things.
Yeah, Saturday Night Alive. Have you heard of that? Saturday Night Alive. It's
out of California, and it's Deborah Gusti and Scott Thomas.
Yeah, so check that out.
Michael Beckwith is on tonight. It's this sort of variety show that was sort of based on the idea of Saturday Night Live. They originally called it that. But then people said, you can't use that name. It's already used. They said, well, we'll be Saturday Night Alive. So they are. Just go to Saturday Night Alive. You'll find it. It's actually very cool.
Deborah Gusti, who founded the Harmony Festival back in California, where we premiered our film In Search of the Future. The email that you guys got has links to our films. And In Search of the Future, check it out. It's a very important film. It's coming straight from the elders' mouths, people we've known for 20 to 40 years, elders, and they're saying really wild stuff about interdimensional travel and all this stuff, and scientists and futurists. So enjoy that.
Or we can
send it to me, and I'll just send it out to everybody because the chat will be lost.
But we find ourselves just so connected. It's amazing. It's literally impossible to keep up with it all.
So say the website again.
Well, Islands of Coherence.
Islands of Coherence. Okay.
And Global Coherence Pulse.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Claudia.
It's
Okay.
pretty
you
well
well.
for setting it up. Yeah.
So we have reached the end of our time, and I'd just like to thank you so much for being on and sharing your work with us and your spirits and your hearts. And it was wonderful. Thank you very much. And
Dottie, thank
It
you.
has been an honor and a treat and a pleasure, everybody. Thank you so much.
And we have our course on socialchrysalis.com. That's where our Dance of Souls course is.
And that was Barbara Marx Hubbard influenced startup. That's brand new.
So if you have repeated behaviors in your life, disturbing behaviors in your life, just know it's the Dance of Souls.
Not that we do.
It's the Dance of Souls, and it's all good because we've got work to do. We came here with a job to do, and that is to move into our self-love and self-acceptance and alignment with our divinity, and to bring our gift to the party. That's us.
okay. I'm going to put this back on gallery view. And I'm going to take everybody off mute. And so you can all just say goodbye. And just a minute. Oops, mute all. How do I unmute all? Huh.
You did.
I did?
Not
Not quite.
No, because it says, oh, there we go.
So
No.
and one thing, if you want to know more, email us at trust@thetrustfrequency.net.
and everybody is now unmuted.
Okay, you got them.
And let us know, and we'll send you links to our work and stuff like that. We'd love to be in touch.
Trust@thetrustfrequency.net.
We'd love
Thank
to
you,
be in
everybody.
touch.
Blessings.
Okay,
blessings.
so
Thank you.
Definitely
bye,
send.
everybody.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Good night, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dottie.